we're back. After talking with some great stuff about Chew and some other independent titles that are out there that are giving comic book fans an alternative to what the big two are giving, we turn to Dark Horse, who gives us such great books as Buffy the Vampire Slayer and their own line of Star Wars comics. Now, they've launched a new series called Star Wars Invasion. Star Wars Invasion #1 came out last week. For those who are not familiar, this is Dark Horse's stab at the stories that were done in the new Jedi Order series of paperbacks that Del Rey Publishing did a couple years ago. Beginning with the invasion of the Yuuzhan Vong, an alien race from outside, literally outside of the Star Wars galaxy. They come from another galaxy that's
far away.
Far away. And the thing about the Yuuzhan Vong is that the Force, the Jedi Knights are kind of helpless against them because they can't use the Force in any way against them.
So this is actually, is this book based on?
It's based on the new Jedi Order series of books, yes.
Okay, kind of like how, what were those? Like Dark Empire were based off of novels? This is kind of the same thing?
Exactly. Now, what is the deal here? For folks who are kind of familiar with the history of this, the new Jedi Order line of books was, and you're going to get differing accounts on this, was originally pitched by Dark Horse. They were the ones who said, hey, let's do a series of books that take place after Return of the Jedi. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like, how many people have been pitching time and time again, Episode 7, those books where Luke Skywalker is now the head of the Jedi Order, and he goes through, has an adventure much like, with younger characters coming up, much like Obi-Wan mentored him in the classic trilogy. If you read certain accounts, yes, the folks at Lucasfilm loved the idea, and then they decided to do a whole series of expanded universe paperbacks or novels based on that. And interestingly enough, Dark Horse Comics themselves, who were publishing books at the time, did not do any books during that period of time. Some people interpreted that as Dark Horse kind of feeling slighted. And there have been some apocryphal accounts that the folks at Dark Horse saw what was going on with the novels and saying, wow, that's not what we would have done with it. So now, if you read the afterword in this book, it's the Dark Horse folks saying, okay, we are finally we're going to start telling invasion stories. Now that we know everything that happened in the invasion storyline is firmly established, now we can start telling our own stories in it. Here's my problem I have with it. If you've been reading the books, you know how the story begins, and you know how it ends. You know the characters that are going to live and die. How can you muster any real sort of dramatic tension if you know the fate of all the characters going in? So that's the issue I have with these books. If you are a big fan of Mara Jade, who Timothy Zahn introduced in the Heir to the Empire series,
did she end up marrying Luke Skywalker?
She ends up marrying Luke Skywalker, yes.
So when does this take place?
This takes place after that, after the Heir to the Empire series.
So where's Mara Jade? Mara
Jade is actually married to Luke Skywalker, and they are having kids.
Right, but Luke Skywalker's in here.
He shows up near the end.
I know
I'm saying. You mean, where is he?
Where is she?
You haven't seen her yet, but she will show up later. I know. I'm just saying, as far as the storyline goes, I know in in New Jedi Order, in the first issue, they're all there. Everybody's there. Han Solo, Luke.
Right.
Mind you, this is the book where Chewbacca's killed too. Chewbacca was killed in.
Spoiler alert!
That, really.
Jesus.
So there's a lot of stuff going on. If you haven't been reading the expanded universe books, they really do a lot to shake things up within the Star Wars universe.
So it's like Jeff Loeb's ultimatum.
Pretty much. In a way, you could almost call it that. It's like Jeff Loeb during Star Wars.
Don't read any more after this issue.
My problem with this issue, though, if you read this, there is, and I know it's the Dark Horse folks just trying to give up their own take on it. There is so much focus on the secondary characters. I myself, and I'll admit it, I'm a Luke Skywalker mark. I want to see Luke Skywalker. When you put Luke Skywalker on the cover of the book, and he doesn't show up until almost the end of it, I'm like, oh, come on. I want to see, more Luke. I want to see him fighting. I want to see him as a Jedi Master. Luke Skywalker is a character to me, the central character of the Star Wars trilogies, when you start putting all this focus on all the other characters around them, it just loses my interest. And to me, another problem I have with a lot of the expanded universe stuff, the stories, they have done to Star Wars what Marvel has done to the X-Men books. They've bogged them down with all this continuity, introducing all these other characters, taking their focus off the main core characters, and you lose me. You lose me. I mean, with Star Wars, it will always be Han Solo, Chewbacca, Luke, Leia, R2-D2, C-3PO, and so on. You have to, these characters from other planets that I have really no emotional investment in, so on, And it's going to happen again. I guess the reason they're introducing these characters is because hopefully you'll get some sort of investment in these other secondary characters that aren't dealt with so much in the main series, then you care about them. Because Luke's not going to die at the end of the series. Han's not going to die. Well, I already told you what happens to Chewbacca, so... I don't know.
I'll tell you what my number one problem with this was. Well, number one problems. First of all, art... not really doing it for me on this. The designs of the aliens are pretty awful. No, they are. It was a chore for me to read this because, again, the only reason I read it is because I knew Luke Skywalker was in it. And again, he doesn't show up but it's like I like the Joe Chen cover. And whoever is doing the graphic design stuff for Dark Horse or the Star Wars stuff,
they do great.
They do great stuff,
job,
like the graphic design stuff, like inside cover.
Yeah.
But then you get to the actual comic, and it's like, ugh. And I just really, this does nothing for me. This character design is terrible. And if this is what they're going to look like, it's like a cross between a predator and an alien.
Exactly. When you look at that, it looks like an alien predator type thing. It's like Aliens Predator versus Star Wars. That's what it feels like.
And just the art is not consistent at all throughout this book, and it just really suffers. It really does. And I just really could care less.
The problem, especially with the Star Wars book, some of the better Star Wars artists and the classic Star Wars artists had a very clean feel, very clean look. The lines were very sharp. You had the strength was in showing the ships, the mechanics, the robots, stuff like that. You know who would do a kick-ass Star Wars book? Chris Sprouse. I would love to see Chris Sprouse doing something like that. Hell, get friggin' Al Williamson back on a Star Wars book. That would rock.
And to me, it's like if you're gonna finally reintroduce like a new storyline with the classic characters, get somebody good to do it. Get someone like Chris Sprouse, or get a name on the book. Get a big name.
Yes, get a premier artist on the book.
Because this kind of book came and went with like no real fanfare. This is like the reintroduction of it's 25 years later after A New Hope.
Right.
It's like, come on, man. It's like the classic characters. I didn't know about this book until like 2 weeks before. I remember ordering it and looking at the previews, and I completely forgot about it. And then it just came, and it's just like, and no one really cared.
Well, unless you're really keyed into the Star Wars.
Which I am so not.
Yeah. If you looked at the websites, if you looked at the Dark Horse sites, they were really pushing it there. But yeah, you're right. Outside of that, with all the other events that are going on, it's too bad that something like this really should have gotten a heck of a lot more attention.
It should have gotten a lot more attention because it would have gotten people who don't read the Star Wars comics, who love the movies,
back into it. Right.
Kind of like, because that's when, I tell you, man, when Dark Empire came out, when those books came out, we sold those things really good because it was the classic characters.
Right.
It was like the next chapter after Return of the Jedi.
Right.
And it did awesome.
And I think the problem, and again, the Star Wars books, and I know I'm, you criticize Dark Horse, but the reality is that the Star Wars books are some of their best-selling titles. So it's not like they have a formula right now that's not working for them. Okay.
I'm not saying all the Star Wars books are crap.
No, I know. I'm just saying, So, I'm saying is we realize that, so for those out there who are saying, well, why are you saying this about the book when the book sells and it's one of their top selling titles? Yes, we do know that.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we do here, though.
Yeah.
With any book that
any
sells.
book. But the issue here is what they've done, as I said from the beginning, what Dark Horse has kind of done with Star Wars is they've bogged it down in so much continuity. The expanded universe, for someone who's a fan of Star Wars, to get into the expanded universe can be really, really difficult. You can't just pick up a novel or a book off the shelves and say, oh, I want to read this.
Well, that's kind of what's gotten me not into those, like getting into those books.
The Star Wars, right.
Yeah, like the expanded universe stuff, because I don't even know where to begin, because I know a lot of this stuff has to deal with other, and then there's some stuff that's in continuity, and then there's other stuff that's not in continuity,
right.
And it's just...
No, you're right, and you're right. It's unfortunate that a book like this that could be used to start getting people into the expanded universe.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I do like we mentioned this with the Dark Horse graphic novel, but there are logos that are put on the Dark Horse books to let you know when they're taking place,
right.
Which I think is a pretty smart thing.
Right.
So that I can't fault them for that.
I was really psyched for this book
for the first issue. Nothing really happened, and it's just like the art was terrible, and I guess I'll read the next issue. Maybe, but I just could have been so much more.
Right, I agree. Oh well, that's us. Well, that's it for the reviews. When we come back, we'll have Last Rants. Do you know what it's going to be about? Because if you do, I don't. See you then.